Today we're going to be talking combating keyword cannibalization and duplicate content. I'm particularly excited about our chat today because I think it's going to be a really nice blend of two core disciplines of SEO in content, keyword optimization, and technical that both our partner Datametrics and ourselves do every day. So just before we get into some brief introductions, the flow of today's conversations, we're going to talk through the flow of the presentation. Before we even dive into the challenges around cannibalization, probably makes sense to kind of get an understanding of what it is from our perspective. What are the main causes of keyword and content cannibalization? Why is it a problem for content marketers and SEOs the like? How do we identify cannibalization, duplicate content, and how is the best way to approach it, and fixing the problem and monitoring it so we don't see these types of issues being reintroduced into your SEO strategy in the future. And then at the very end of our chat today, we're going to have Q&A, and feel free, guys, throughout the presentation to ask questions. I'm going to be kind of collecting all of those questions, and then we're just going to have a nice little set of questions for us to kind of dive into at the end of today's chat. So first things first, introductions. For you guys who don't know, my name is Matt Hill. I am a senior solutions consultant here at Lumar. Longtime person in the SEO field, and I love diving into the data. Also on the call today, we have John Earnshaw. John is our partner from Datametrics, a true SEO expert in this contemporary age, from teaching the digital thought leaders of tomorrow at a lecture at University of Hertfordshire, and working on his main stage presence at Brighton SEO, to supporting SEO strategies for all the global brands that he works with. John knows this stuff when it comes to search. And we also have our rock star from our professional services team here at Lumar, Richard Barrett. Started his career as a full stack developer, has over 13 years in the industry, starting from affiliate marketing, like I'm sure some of us have, myself included, and then moving into the SEO space. He has both worked in-house and agency before starting at Lumar. Next slide, please. We're going to be looking at data sets across our two core platforms today, Lumar and Datametrics. For those of us on the call who are unfamiliar with our two platforms, Lumar, just to kind of begin, is a enterprise website crawler helping brands analyze, monitor, and protect website health and intelligence across SEO, accessibility, and even additional data sets. And we also are going to be looking at data within Datametrics, which is also an amazing platform that helps businesses uncover opportunities for growth. Particularly, we want to look at different things around both of these platforms. So I think, both technical and content questions, we welcome everything in regards to this topic. And then lastly, before we dive into the presentation itself, I just want to make a note. We do have the availability for closed captions just within your Zoom presentation. If you want to access those captions, make sure to click the captions icon that can be found under the More section, and then showing subtitles. And we will also be recording this presentation for all of those who are unable to attend. So please feel free to share presence of the presentation, today's meeting. We definitely want people to be able to have access to this data, even if they're not able to be present today for the presentation. Throughout the call today, we're going to be going into some feedback, and we're going to actually start with a quick poll question. In terms of the actual video as well, just as you can see on screen here, that's going to be actually shared within the next few days. So you will have access to that through our marketing platform. And any questions, just basic Zoom functionality, just type them into the Q&A box. I will do my best to just source through all of those questions throughout the presentation. And as I mentioned, tack them up at the end for a nice little Q&A with our presenters. That being said, I'm going to kick it off with our first poll question. for the folks on the call familiar with cannibalization, do you currently suffer from keyword cannibalization? Yes, no, or that's what I'm here to find out.
Thank you, Matt. And this is such a great question. And we wrestled with what should be the first question, but this really helps us to get a feel for the audience. And I'm fascinated by what people are going to respond to this one. What do you reckon,
I was
Rich?
well, I was thinking about this before, and if you answered no, there's probably not a great reason to be on this webinar if you answer no straight off. But then I disagree with anybody who says no. So we'll see what the proportion is. Well, there you go.
Oh, there we go. 50% yes, 3% no. I challenge those no's to send their domain, their URL to us, and we'll take a look.
It could
47%,
be
that's
right.
what I'm here to find out.
For
So
those
we're in the
3%, for those 3% no's that are still on, please stay with us here. We want to dive into the data more and understand a little bit your use cases.
exactly. And then we'll dare you to send your URL at the end. So yeah, thanks again, Matt, for the very kind introduction there. So let's get straight into it. What is cannibalization? So I think the first thing that we want to get clear is that cannibalization is not a content thing. It's actually a keyword thing. So we talk about keyword cannibalization, and we talked about this the other day, didn't we, Richard? It's a keyword thing as opposed to a content thing, because you can have three pieces of content that appear to be in conflict, and we use that interchangeably, or appear to be suffering from cannibalization for one or two keywords, but not many other keywords. So yeah, so I think, and we're both in total agreement with that one, Richard.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's almost an extra complexity as a result of that, where you can be thinking about how do I resolve this conflict between these two keywords, but then there's other keywords that you don't want to affect. So that does add that little extra bit with cannibalization.
Yeah, so true. Such a good point. Because as we're going to come on to shortly, before you rush out and try and fix cannibalization, you've got to stop and think and ask the question, what else? What else might this piece of content position for in its own right? So don't rush into it. But let's get straight into some of those main causes. We probably could have run off about 20 of these, but we're just going to stick to five of them initially. And these really are the main ones. So let's run through these from the top. The first one is one of the most common, and this is overlapping theme. So what do we mean by theme? Well, as an SEO, so I'm a content SEOer. Richard, you're a technical SEOer. So for me, theming means URL title, header one, meta description, the theme of that page. What are we saying to Google when it comes to what this page is all about? That's the theme, and the strongest theming element is the title. And I know, Richard, you got some screenshots on this, and in Lumar, you got a great way of finding overlapping titles. But when titles are too similar, that says to Google, or well, what it actually does, it confuses Google. Google's simply not sure which page to return for a particular keyword or string if those titles are too similar. So that's the first one. You agree that's a common cause, Richard?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the more obvious ones as well, and certainly the more visual ones that you can see on your own site. And sort of in addition to that, on my side, I often look at intent of the page, or well, intent of the page is probably the better way of phrasing it, since that's the way that Google likes to think about it. So if the page is serving the same intent in two instances, you've probably got an overlapping theme there.
100%. Intent is absolutely critical. And what is Google if it's not the world's largest database of human intent? Number two, I'm going to use an example for this one, and I'm going to call out, can I call out a brand? I'll call out HSBC. They were position one, page one in Google for best bank. Okay. Hopefully there's nobody from HSBC. Maybe hopefully there is. Position one, page one for best bank. And they dropped from position one to page nine. Something like 93, 94, 95. Why did they drop? They dropped because of cannibalization caused by a PDF. The PDF was all about the best bank accounts for students. And this just happened to get a massive injection of authority from all of the main universities in the UK. So those universities, very authoritative, huge injection of authority was enough to take their main page off page one down 90 positions. So that's what we mean by injection of authority. You ever seen anyone's like that, Richard?
Yeah, absolutely. I see it quite often in e-commerce where you've got a product library and you're always wanting to expand this product library, but maybe you've just added a product that's very similar to another one, or it could even be identical but in a different color, that sort of thing. But if that other product suddenly gets lots of, maybe it's internal linking, maybe you're promoting it as part of a Black Friday sale, that sort of thing, suddenly that page has become more authoritative than your original page, but it doesn't necessarily have all the other things that go around to making up the ranking of the page. So now your term, your keyword search term that was doing so great is bouncing up and down.
You know what? The power of PageRank and the challenge of the facet, those two combined there, which takes us on to poor internal linking. And internal linking is so fundamentally critical to good visibility that we simply can't ignore that. But if you're not careful, and we'll show you a great thing you can do in Pi to sort your internal linking out. If you're not careful with your internal linking, you can send mixed messages, particularly with the anchor text that you use in those links that are not only good for accessibility, but they tell Google what the destination page is all about. And I'm sure you see plenty of that, Richard.
Indeed, yeah, and it also leads into sort of an opportunity as well. If you're creating content or anything really on your site that is ranking well for these terms or could rank well for these terms, but then you're not using the internal linking of that page back to your key converting page, you're missing an opportunity there to, and really creating that cannibalization as well at the same time. So you see it all the time. New page comes out, someone's had a great idea, but that great idea is almost too good and it's pulling traffic away from where you want it to be.
100%. It's an absolute classic and so easy to fix. Then, talking of linking, we come on to non-contextual optimization, which I'm sure many people in the audience haven't heard of. The easiest way of explaining it is, well, what is contextual optimization? Contextual optimization is where you stop and think before you publish, where you actually ask the question, hang on a minute, what content in my ecosystem is A, complementary, that I can get links from, and what content in my ecosystem that's already there that might have been there for years is potentially conflicting, has an overlapping theme, has a title that's too similar. If you just inject content into your ecosystem because somebody's told you that Google loves fresh content, that's not contextual, and that can lead to huge cannibalization. Another big problem, Richard.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's quite common where you certainly, if you feature something like your latest news items or things like that, where you're creating these gaps that can be filled by Google, basically, and you don't want Google to fill those gaps. You want to fill those gaps.
Exactly, exactly. And then internationalization, I'll pass that to you, the master of hreflang. What are we talking about here?
So internationalization is a bugbear of mine for keyword cannibalization, simply because, of course, Google's told you that localization and everything like this is very important. It's very important to feed people the correct site based on what they want. And it absolutely is. The problem emerges when these pages are very similar. So, for example, if we take the UK, the US, very common, same language, we use different currency, of course, but that's mainly the only thing that's different on some of these pages. Then suddenly you get the US page appearing for UK people, the UK page appearing for US people, and that's less useful, and it's reflected in the rankings as well.
Yeah. Bring on hreflang. That's for another day. But let's get into why is this such a problem? And it's a problem when it affects the revenue. So this is a chart from a market intelligence report, and this is looking at revenue opportunity. So this happens to be Macy's US site. We got 5 different categories ranging from fashion accessories through kids wear, menswear, women's wear, non-gender wear. Now, the dark blue, that shows monthly revenue based on visibility. The area in the pink, okay, that's the equivalent of $1.7 million a month in target revenue, opportunity, if you like. Now, the reason I'm highlighting that is we did some research in the UK that showed that up to 40% of that $1.7 million a month is caused by cannibalization. That's why it's a problem. That's the tip of the iceberg. Richard, the next one's yours.
Yeah, so this is an example of my internationalization bugbear that I've got here. So what we've got here is a single query. You can see it's over the last 3 months, and then there's the 3 geographies that we've identified here. We've hidden it all to protect the data, of course. So you can see here there's a split there in terms of impressions, clicks, and click-through rate. And then we split out the 3 geographies. And the first one is the main one, the main driver of visits here, but it's split into 2. And the first one is the US page in this instance. The second one is the UK page. And look at that position change between the 2. So we're talking roughly 5% of the time, US people are getting the UK page, and they're seeing that at a position that's almost double. So your click-through rates plummeted. Obviously, as a result, your clicks plummeted. The 2 are kind of linked, but also your users will be getting to the wrong page at that point. And then we head on to geography 2, and you can see it's a similar sort of thing. But in this instance, I want to focus on the second page where the user is being served it's being served the US version versus the UK search. And you can see that actually the click-through rate for that's lower. And the reason that this is, despite the position being higher, the reason for this is you've got US contextual things, $signs, for example, being served to UK people. They're going to skip over that result. They're not going to click on that result. So you've got a lower click-through rate despite a higher position. And then the final one shows, I think, a very interesting opportunity where you can see here. So this, I believe this is Canada and US. So this is a Canadian localization of the website. And the position for the US is 4. The position for the Canadian page was 4. And the position for the US was 2. That's really interesting because this means that the US is outranking the localized version. And yet, if you look at the click-through rate, it's very, very high for the US version. Now, that's because the Canadian dollar uses the same sign as the US dollar. So there's less out-of-place contextual elements there. But really what we can see here is that the US page has much more authority. And therefore, should we be focusing our efforts into that page to ensure the higher ranking, less cannibalization, pour all those metrics into one page instead of 2, versus the traditional advice of localize everything. But that is only one potential solution. Let's not try and fix everything at this point, I guess.
But it's fixable. That's the thing. If you can see it, it's fixable. And speaking of see it, I love that example. Speaking of seeing it, let's look at how to identify this. And why is it so often ignored? So we're talking about cannibalization and duplicate content. Now, I've got a really good example. So imagine you're in the US and you're searching for the best Chromebook. You're searching for the best Chromebook. So you turn to Google. You are, depending on what day you're searching, are not going to find Best Buy, because Best Buy are only on page 1 for 50% of the past 30 days. I found this chart yesterday. So one day you're looking in Google and there's Best Buy. Next day they're gone. 50% chance of actually going through, landing on their site. I mean, already when you've got conversion rates in the low 2%, that's not going to help you. So what do we see here? A lot of ups and downs. And on the y-axis, positions 1 to 100. And I've put that dotted line where the bottom of page 1 is, or the top 10 results. The truth behind this, if I go on to the next slide, it's actually 3 conflicting pages. So this is Best Buy. We've got 3 pages. And the thing about cannibalization is they don't replace each other like for like. You'll get lots of ups and downs. What are these 3 pages? I can hear you asking. Well, none of them are the optimized page. You've got 3 different product pages. They're not making it clear to Google. And when I took a look at the site, you know what I found? I found a URL, bestbuy.com/site shop best Chromebook. That's the one they want to return. But because of the confusion, because of the authority of these pages, the whole domain loses out. Who wins? The competition. Here's your example, Richard. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so this is how we identify opportunities to reduce the cannibalization. And one of the simplest ways to look at it is how many duplicate titles are you running? How many pages are featuring the exact same title as another page? Because it's either going to create cannibalization from that, or it's just going to limit your opportunity to appear in other keywords, which in itself is another big problem. So as part of our tool, we'll group those all together. You can see here 283 brand titles are the same. It's 283 different brands with the same title. Split those out, change those out, make them more specific, and you've reduced the potential impact of keyword cannibalization.
Yeah, and this comes right back to our first cause, overlapping theme, with the strongest theming element being a title. So this is such a great example. Love it. Okay, so let's talk about how to fix it. I mean, to be honest, we could talk about cannibalization all day, but we haven't got all day. So let's get into some of the ways in which we can fix it. So the first thing you've got to do, remember it's keyword cannibalization, is make a decision. Do you actually want to be on page one for that keyword that you're cannibalizing for? Well, if the answer is yes, then you've got to decide on which page you want to be the doorway into your ecosystem. You might decide, actually, no, I don't care. And often that's the case, but let's assume you do care. Got a great example for you. Anyone seen me talking about cannibalization before? No, I love nothing more than a nice men's blazer. Now, so we got three men's blazers here. We got a linen, we got a cotton, and a summer blazer. It's a keyword thing. So these might actually compete for the word men's blazers. Okay, do we care about that? Well, the first thing that we've got to do before we make any changes to those three pages is to check each one of those for visibility in its own right. So before we start tampering with linen blazers, does it actually position well for linen blazers? And are we going to risk messing with that? But we can keep that intact. So before you make any changes, before you think, oh, I'm cannibalizing for this keyword, let me change all of these, don't do it. Check for visibility first. So be aware of your visibility outside. And that's why using Pi is really good, because it will monitor your visibility for every term that you put into it. So assuming that you do care, assuming that you've done that check, well, then you reach into your bag and pull out your keyword cannibalization toolkit. Okay. And here are a number of things that you can do. So from your toolkit, the first is you can downgrade the theming. Okay, downgrade the theming of the offending pages. And obviously, if you're going to take Richard's approach, you know, Lumar, they've got a great way of identifying those duplicate titles. So that will help you get a really good head start. Let's see what this looks like. So if we turn to the men's blazers as an example. Okay, so the summer blazers page. How do we downgrade the theming of that? If we assume that the current title is men's summer blazers, we might actually want to refine that title to something like summer blazers for the stylish man. But we have to make sure that it's still going to position in its own right. Then we boost it with optimized links. Optimized links, absolutely critical. We can merge in 301. Richard, right up your street. Bit of 301ing.
Love a bit of redirecting.
Exactly. So, and again, this is just one of a combination. You can find older content and you can 301 the older content to the page that you are pushing in, the new page, the page that's being conflicted. Give it authority. How do you find that? Well, you can use a site operator. That does it beautifully. Here's a tip. Put the date in the site operator. You can see that there, and that will find all your old content from 2019. Another one, you can link. You can also no index and archive. And finally, you can make a hub page. You can make a hub page. And I'll come back to the men's blazers just as a visualization of this. So if you've only got three pages, the linen, the cotton, and the summer, and we see this in so many areas, and they're conflicting for men's blazers, Well, you can make a men's blazers page. You can link up to that with complementary links, okay, and Richard, you talked about linking, absolutely critical. Link up from the individual pages using the anchor text, men's blazers. Link to summer, link to cotton, link to linen, and get horizontal links as well. And to do that, how do you find those complements? Again, you can use the site operator. Now, if you're a Pi user, brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. Things are going to get super exciting because we are about to inject something incredible into the platform to do all of this for you. So we're adding a suite of advanced AI features that are going to help you to optimize contextually, to prevent conflict. And one of the features here, and I pulled in Marks and Spencer's if you're from the UK, what it will do, it will actually analyze your existing links or your existing content to find pages where there are no links, semantically relevant ones. And then it will identify pages where the links are suboptimal. And that will helpfully, well, I say helpfully, it will fix the problem for you. Richard, this one's yours.
Absolutely. So from our perspective, we're looking at your site first. And what we're doing here is what actually is duplicate on your site. And we're trying to match up the exact text, the exact features on the page, so that we say these pages are pretty similar or similar enough that you should do something about it, really. So this comes back to the separating out the themes. So you can look at this and say, well, these two pages are quite similar, or the set of pages are very similar. So here is my potential danger of keyword cannibalization, and here is my opportunity to try and separate out, get these more specific things. And it's worth touching on that hub approach is very, very good. I think it's very good. It concentrates the authority into a single place, and sometimes it needs a bit of love and work initially because you may have already successfully ranked with one page or several pages as this instance is. But if you get that page there, you've concentrated it all there. You've got more potential with where that could go for the core keywords on it.
Exactly. And you can become a topical authority.
Indeed. And I've deliberately poked our website for this one. So you can see here, there's an obvious instance where we've got news here. We've got the blog and we've got industry news, but then we've also gone industry news latest, because it's very important, of course, to have the very latest stuff available and accessible. But the problem is we haven't changed the title. We've kept it as SEO industry news because it makes sense for both pages, but there's no separation there. There's no, why is latest more interesting than industry news? Is the page itself the exact same? It's just we've got a latest and we've got a non-latest. This is a very common mistake we see with websites where people have set it up to allow the latest stuff to be featured somewhere. But also, if you go to the top level page, that does the exact same thing. And that's kind of how we filter into our identifying it as part of a primary set here. So what you're seeing here, this is our screenshot of the breakdown of your entire crawl. So we crawl your whole website and you've got a split of primary pages, unique and indexable, and you'll see duplicate pages in there. So now we can color graph those on and say, whereabouts is my duplicate content within the structure of my site? Where are the primary pages within the structure of my site? And where do they overlap? And that's what we're interested in for keyword cannibalization.
That's such a good view. And for Pi users, you might be able to see that view sooner than you think, as we'll allude to in a moment. How do you monitor all of this? Well, again, we're short on time, so we can't talk forever. But, the great thing about Pi is daily tracking. If you're going to identify it, you're going to fix it, you're going to prevent it, you really do need daily data. You've got to be tracking everything. And cannibalization can happen way, way down, with the content that appears in position 93, as I mentioned with HSBC. Okay, so you've got to have that historic data as well. Now, of course, in Pi, you can see these wonderful position explorer charts. That's a site called Feel Unique. The content was all about smoky eyes, but nobody's going to be going there because they're suffering from cannibalization. And on a big scale, site-wide, we have the ability with conflict detector to monitor it across category and subcategory. Which of my subcats and cats are actually suffering from more or less, And we also have these wonderful cannibalization or conflict reports as well that will not only show you you've got it, but will tell you how many times the top page has switched in the past period of time. Invaluable. Help me to prioritize it. And this is your view, Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't stress enough how monitoring over time is really the way to action, to view, to just make the difference with all this data. And with us, that's the same sort of thing. Have my duplicate pages gone up? Have my duplicate titles gone up? These things then become what's changed? What can I do to stop the keyword cannibalization happening before I have to do loads of work to fix it, create hub pages to fix it, that sort of stuff. Catch it before it's a big problem like that. Much less work involved, much less impact.
Even prevent it before it
Yeah,
happens.
exactly. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, so just to round off before we go into questions, summary, everybody out there, including the 3%, you do have cannibalization. It's a keyword thing. Make a decision on, do I care about the term? Then, do I want one of these to be a doorway into my world? Do I want to make a new hub? And then you can prevent it with contextual optimization. And I just wanted to finish on this slide before we go to our final poll. Coming soon, the integration of the incredible Lumar into the incredible Pi to make an even more incredible tool. So keep an eye out for news on that one. I love working with Lumar, some amazing things going on, such a wonderful collaboration and coming together of platforms. So yeah, more on that to come. And I see Matt's back. Does that mean I need to hit the button for the final poll question, Matt?
You know what? Honestly, I was just really enjoying the praise that Lumar was getting, John. So no need to stop you there. Please keep going. No, guys, I wanna thank you guys. That was awesome. Definitely some great tidbits there, and hopefully some folks on the call learned a little bit something about cannibalization, maybe some opportunities that were unearthed today that you may have not thought about. So I have a poll question, and I also have a list of some great questions I've been getting in the Q&A throughout this. So first things first, let's talk commercials. Would you all like to see a demo of Lumar and Pi Datametrics in the near future? Feel free to take your time, answering those questions. We'll kind of leave that up to have in the background. I want to dive into some of the specific questions regarding John and Richard's content that we talked throughout. First question, this is to both you guys. If a product is using the same keyword as the parent category, example, think cardboard box, what should you do as an SEO? Should you opt for the long tail keyword for the product instead, such as saying 11 by 12 cardboard box? Or is there another strategy for that conflation between long tail and category specific nomenclature?
Such a good question. I mean, do you want to start, Richard?
I was going to say, do you want to start? There's lots we could say here, but I mean, I'm happy. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, go on. You won't get me stopped. So you get in.
My immediate thought when I see anything like this is you can't have, well, broadly speaking, you can't have non-branded two terms, 2 pages ranked for the same term. You're going to get cannibalization. So what you should be thinking about is, what can I get for this one? What can I get for that one? What makes these 2 pages unique? What makes them different? And if they're not different, do you need 2 pages? That would be my sum up of that.
And I love it. And just to extend on that, I would actually look at, well, what does that other page position for in its own right? Which one already does best for cardboard box? And then we need to look at the authority as well, the internal authority and the external authority. You can look at external authority in Pi if you want, because you can actually see the trust and citation flow. So you've got to bear those in mind. Definitely the higher one, closer to ground level, would be almost certainly shorter tail. And then, Matt, you mentioned the actual 11 by 10 inch box. Yeah, I'd be thinking, hand on heart, longer tail, more precise for the product, more category for the higher one.
Awesome, guys. I think that's definitely good cover. That covers it. Second question. We were speaking to before earlier, guys, about authority injection. is this more to do with my own content conflicting with each other, or can it be competitor content covering the same theme topic? How do you distinguish what's the cause, the root cause of it?
And I'll jump in on that one because I brought up the whole authority thing. Generally, it's off-site. It's if you've got a piece of content. So, like, think about hotels, best hotels in New York, and then you've got one hotel here that suddenly gets an amazing review because it's by Bryant Park and everybody loves it, and TripAdvisor's talking about it. That can get an injection of authority from outside, which means for hotels in New York, it actually performs better than the hub page. So it's generally outside, but it can be internal. For example, a link from your home page, okay, ground level, pointing to that one, massive injection authority. Doesn't matter about subfolders, but it's click depth. You are bringing click depth of one to a page, so it raises its authority.
Absolutely, yeah. And I always use the example of Black Friday or a seasonal sale, where suddenly you've gone, oh, these products which we haven't featured for a little while, or maybe they've been buried down in the site whilst it's been out of season. Suddenly you brought them up to the home page, and you've given them all this authority in a very short space of time. If that overtakes a page that you created, which is already deeper in the site, you may have just given that page an injection of authority, which allows it to cannibalize the term that you wanted originally to go to a category page or something like that.
Yeah, nice.
Guys, I can feel the pain. I can feel the passion in this next question. So just take that in mind as I ask it. Any tips on working on enterprise level sites with siloed teams? Multiple teams publishing pages, product guides without going through a central SEO, like the person asking the question. This person feels like they're fighting a tide sometimes. One team effectively taking traffic from another. Tragedy of the commons. Is this a common theme across large websites? And I think the core of it is maybe strategies to combat those types of organizations.
Wow. Who sent that one in?
You know, I have to go back to the Q&A.
I feel their pain. I wanted to call out their name and just say,
yeah.
While you do that, I don't know. Richard, do you want to start with that one?
I mean, I've been in that position, so it gave me flashbacks more than anything else. So yeah, it's very much a case of what can you affect, what can you monitor, what can you keep track of. So it's very common for me to kick up a website, especially when I used to be working as sort of half developer, half SEO, to kick up the website and everything had changed, like the links had changed. Some marketer had kicked off a campaign and we had no idea that the campaign was going ahead, and all these links are going to all these different places. The best thing you can do is keep track of these changes, monitor the impact, see what's happening, and then you can build a justification. You can like say, look, when last time we did this traffic here went up great, but then we lost all this really important traffic that went to this other place. Anything around that you can monitor. So at least, I mean, I will point out that as a technical SEO, it's like if you've let's try that again. If all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But that is how I approach it. I would look and try and monitor and build cases to show people, to say, look, we need to change our strategy here because this is hurting us.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add to that is show them the money. That MI report with the revenue opportunity, basically work out the value of the lost opportunity with conflict. It'll add up to millions of dollars for a big business. Slide that across the table and said, should we talk about it now? I guarantee that'll get their attention.
I was just looking back, guys, at the attendee list who asked the question. It was actually an anonymous attendee who asked that. So maybe it was too emotional to do that.
He's just popped it in the chat there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Next question on this list. What happens if you provide services at multiple locations? The keywords apply to all locations, but the locations are competing with each other. Let's say that in that situation.
Richard, you handled that before?
Yeah, a little bit. It is a challenging one. The key that you've got to understand is really what is again, it's a keyword problem, right? What keywords are being split between all these pages, and what can be siloed into these individual pages. If there's one keyword that's being split between these pages, let's take the example of a cleaner for an easy understanding one. So I'm searching for cleaners in New York, and then maybe you've got cleaners in Brooklyn, or maybe I should have used the UK because I know more places in the UK. But there's that point, right? But if somebody's searching for cleaner near me, which page is going to feature for that? Should you have a separate page that's really concentrated onto that? And this is where it comes down to, you've got what John said before, you've got to make a decision. Which page is the one that you're going to feature the core, I am a cleaner, this is my business. That's how I would approach it. I'd make the decision, and then I try and concentrate everything onto that one page, but I'd still keep some separate details out. It may not be multiple pages of different locations. I'm not a big fan of that. I might just feature all the locations on a single page and concentrate that again all onto one page.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Richard. I'm not a big fan of pages that look almost the same, except for the location. It looks kind of spammy. Dating sites used to do it. For me, what I would do is just really monitor that conflict. And as it arises on a daily basis, ask the question, well, what keyword is it for? And does that keyword matter to me? And then if it does, then you can move into differentiation. But you've got to understand the extent of the problem first, the patterns of cannibalization, and then from there you can start to fix it location by location, potentially page by page. And the fixes actually work.
I have another question right here. If a non-optimal page is being selected as a primary one by Google, do you try to kill that page by no index or de-optimizing and push it back to the optimal page? Or do you go with Google's choice and rework it into the form you want? I feel like this is something we talk about a lot at Lumar. On its face, I feel like internal linking would be a strong way to kind of drive that authority to the page you want, but also curious from you guys as well. How else would you attack that?
Go for it, Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely right. The first thing that pops into my head is you've created a page that ranks. It's got authority around something. It's generated interest from Google. Let's funnel that into somewhere else that's more useful. The only caveat to that would be is if it's pulling attention away from a page that is a revenue generating page. You don't want your non-revenue generating page overtaking your revenue generating page. And I see this quite often with things like blogs, where someone produces an article around, I don't know, let's say the travel industry. Somebody's produced an article about places to visit in Spain. It's a great article. People love it. They visit it. But it also means that when people search for trips to Spain, they get the blog, not the actual purchase point. And that is where it can become a problem. But internal linking helps. Your blog links back to the purchasing page. The purchasing page has gained some authority as a result of that, some specific intent around that. And it may still outrank it, in which case you have to take more drastic action. You could redirect it. You could no index it. Redirecting would be my preference there. But if the topics are too dissimilar, then you could run into problems. Although with keyword cannibalization, Google doesn't think they're too dissimilar. So yeah, that would be mine. Any additional stuff from you, John, that you would think?
Well, I'd probably ask the question, why is it outranking me? And what's it outranking me for? It's obviously got some sort of injection authority. It sounds like in this case with the blog, it's probably external. You know what? You could go back to the toolkit. You could combine the pages if there are elements of that. You could have a referral link in a clear place from that to say, hey, you read this, you want to buy it, then come here. And then you could redirect it. You could no index follow it. So it really depends on the value that page and its visibility is bringing you. But I'd refer to the cannibalization toolkit.
All right, everybody. First of all, that was awesome interaction from the audience. Great questions. I think we really had a nice, fruitful discussion today. I know there was a few lingering questions on the list. I have those noted, so we'll do our best to try to get back to you for all who answered those questions. Make sure you guys take the time to answer the poll question that's in front of you as well. We would love to just hear from you around keyword cannibalization, and just kind of talk through some of the issues that you're seeing on your end. Richard, John, any parting words?
I just want to thank the audience for being here. and for asking all those questions, for turning up at this time of the day. And thank you for Lumar for getting together with us.
John, do you mind going to that last slide?
Oh, hang on. Yes, good shout. This one here. There we go.
Things coming up on both of our sides. So we have another awesome exchange of ideas in our Lumar site speed and SEO webinar on March 26th. So guys, look out for all information to sign up for that. On the Pi Datametrics side, we have another great topic around what to look for in SEO in 2024. Unlock the future of search. So please sign up for those events. We'd love to, again, engage in the same way. Also know that we are going to be talking about this particular presentation on Lumar's blog. So if you want a nice read up of that, you can check up in the next couple of days. And then we are also just posted a new article advocating for accessibility, SEO careers, and keyword expectations. That's going to be with Jess Peck and Jess Maloney. So also check into the blog for that. Guys, thank you so much for your time, and hope to see everybody soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. And thank you very much, John. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.